This is for new people just getting started with the Cardano ecosystem.
Hello, everybody. Today we have the chance for this interview to have John O'Connor from IOG Africa. How are you, John?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. You know that in the community there is a lot of questions about what's going on in Africa and what's the plan and what are you doing, guys? So yeah, I think that everybody's going to be really glad to hear from you.
Fantastic. Let's get going.
Let's get going. So for our first question, I would like you to tell us a bit about you and about your team in Addis Ababa.
Sure. So my name's John. I'm the Director of African Operations at IO Global. I've been working with the project for maybe about 5 years now, since the initial 20 team members for the Cardano project as a whole. I originally worked at the Cardano Foundation before switching into the IO Global role. In terms of me and a little bit about me outside of the work side, I'm half Ethiopian, half Irish. I grew up in London and went to school in London, went to study politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford afterwards, before moving to start working in the tech startup space back in London. So before I joined IO and got involved with Cardano, I worked in advertising technology and an insurance technology company before watching a TEDx talk by Charles about the value of blockchain and how it can impact the developing world, and was completely hooked. So I joined the team, as I say, I think maybe team member number 15 or 17 for the project as a whole. I was involved at the very beginning with the original raise in Japan, getting us listed on the various exchanges. So yeah, I've been there a while.
Okay, so actually you have a personal link with Africa, right?
Very much so, yeah. My mum was born here. She grew up in Ethiopia. She left when she was, I think, 17 to move to the UK. I don't expect many of the viewers to know that much about Ethiopian history, but there was a difficult period in Ethiopian history with the Derg regime, where it wasn't particularly safe in the country. So over that period, my mother moved to the UK and stayed there. So she was there. She's been in the UK now for 30, 35 years. Met my happy-go-lucky, fast-talking Irish father. And yeah, they had me, and I grew up there in London.
Okay, so it's one of the things that push you to go and work for Africa, right? And why did you choose IOG in the first place? You said it's...
Yeah, sorry, please.
No, it was just after this TEDx, or you already have an idea of what was blockchain and stuff before?
Sure. So I've always been very, very interested in development. A lot of the modules which I studied in the economic side really got me starting to think about, what are the other ways we might organize economic systems, or what are the real drivers for growth? Why is the UK, whereas, Ethiopia on the development cycle is quite far back? Why has China done such a good job at, raising millions and millions of people out of poverty over such a short period? And why has it not worked? Why has that model of growth not worked for other countries? So on the economic side, I was always interested in these issues. And I'm sure, like many people, I was part of a generation where technology held the promise to solve a lot of these issues. So that confluence for me of technology and development has always been fascinating. So when I had a chance to work in this field, I completely jumped at it. And blockchain for me is potentially that technology, allowing us to rebuild a financial system that might be fairer and definitely cheaper and more efficient without the constraints of these legacy systems that we've had before. So yeah, that was it. Blockchain for me held a lot of this promise, and the opportunity to deploy this technology in Ethiopia and other African countries obviously speaks to me strongly, given the personal link.
That's really interesting, and actually, I think that a lot of people are really in a rush to hear from you a bit later in the interview about what's going to be actually those solutions that you're going to implement. And what about your team? How many people do you have?
So the current Addis office sits at 7 people. So we've got 5 developers, a business coordinator, and myself. The team's all Ethiopian. They're all women. because we ran this training course maybe 2 years ago now, or a year and a half ago, where we trained a bunch of women developers in Haskell programming methods. And we hired the best 5 of them. So they now sit within the ADIS office working on some of the international teams. So they're very much plugged into IO Global. The big change for us over the next year should be the expansion of this team to somewhere around 50 people. So we're looking to massively invest and increase the size of the ADIS office in order to be able to service deals, not just in Ethiopia, but also in other countries. So this should be the hub, particularly for projects we have in Africa, but potentially also to build and deploy projects for other countries outside of the region as well.
Okay, that's really cool, because actually, yeah, I think that when you start to work, it's like really not super easy, especially in Africa. We have to be honest, to build a team with the people who actually have the required knowledge in terms of like coding and stuff. So I think that it was like a great move to make a training and then like can hire like the best ones. And so then you say you also think of creating branches perhaps, or also offices in Africa, right?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and what's the best model for us to be able to scale. And my view is that rather than setting up individual offices in every country that we want to do business in, which has a massive management overhead, as you say, it takes a lot of time to build the network there and to find the right candidates and to train them and to work with them. So my view is to really focus on building out the ADIS office with all of the capabilities we need. And then if we're going to be deploying a project in, let's say, Nigeria, we can have a deployment team there or an implementation team there, but we still do the bulk of the actual development work and the project management side from here. So ADIS will be the sort of engine of this car. But yes, we will hire people as needed to work on the projects as we sell them in various different countries.
Yeah, I think it's actually like a very clever way of managing the thing, because as you say, you need a pilot and you need to experiment a lot of things there. And then when you know, okay, this works, and this not and stuff, you can say, okay, this is the checklist. And if I want to implement the thing in other countries, that would be the key. It's actually, one of the projects Prof of Africa is working on, the African Blockchain Center for Developers. They're actually trying to first set up something in Nigeria, try to find how it works properly, and then expand, instead of like trying to expand too fast. And
absolutely. And I'm really not here to be negative about other projects, but one of the challenges Consensus faced was over expanding and hiring too quickly. So they were very, very, very keen to take advantage of the opportunity, the high ETH price, to be able to set up this sort of consultancy business that Consensus represents all across the world. But then, of course, you find out that you've got way more people than you need. People don't really know what they're doing, what their job really entails. A lot of efficiency is lost. And Consensus's solution was, unfortunately, to fire 50% of their workforce. So this isn't a solution I want to end up with. So we're trying to be very smart about it, only hire as required, and only hire as much as we need to actually fulfill the projects that we have going.
Okay, perfect. Actually, you give me like a perfect transition with like the second question I would like to ask, which is what is, and I think everybody wants to know that, what is IOG's plans for Africa? Because I think that the way you are developing there, first in Ethiopia, it's because of this plan there. So I think that it's, like a thing that everybody in the community are talking about for like a few months already. So
yeah. Well, that's because Charles loves to talk about stuff. So I'm sure I keep getting sent articles of the big announcement. So unfortunately, I can't share as much as I'd like. What I can say is we're at the very, very, very final stage of a large government contract here, which would have multi-million users being onboarded onto the platform for a real-world implementation of blockchain technology. This is a sort of 10x improvement in real world terms over what's currently being done in this area. So it represents a massive development, a positive development statement for the beneficiaries we're talking about, as well as an incredible validation that this technology is now ready to be used in these state level engagements. So we're super excited by it. but obviously this is also a government process as well. So getting the contracts done, getting everything agreed has been a very lengthy process. But that's not just in Ethiopia. Anytime you're working with government and you're doing these government procurement processes, they're always very lengthy and very involved. So we're at the very, very, very end of this process now, and our hopes are that we can do an Africa special online show in exactly a month, towards the end of the month, end of February, where we can announce this, go into detail, have interviews with all of the government departments that are actually tendering this deal, and really get into the detail of what we're here for and what we're doing. So some information, but unfortunately I can't share with you as much as I'd like today.
Okay, it's like, I think it's actually, it's not super detailed, but we have a good idea. So, but actually, if I well understand, it's like that would be a really big project that could impact the overall ecosystem, not only Cardano in Africa, but like it would show that it works. Like we can build
Absolutely.
stuff on.
So, what I can say is that, the focus of this product is the Atala identity solution. And I think that this deployment would actually be the largest blockchain deployment done anywhere, period. So I'm not including speculative asset trading or cryptocurrency token trading, but an actual real world deployment. I think this is the largest ever done in the world. So it's important, as you say, not just for the Ethiopia context, not even just from the Africa context, but much more broadly as validation that blockchain technology is actually a useful technology for these state level deployments. So yeah, we're very excited, and yeah, I'm really hoping I can share a lot more very soon.
Perfect. Because that's actually exciting, and I like the fact that, because I think often when people think about IoT plans in Africa, they think it's only in and for Africa. But like if what's happening in Africa can highlight the overall work of all the
Absolutely.
teams working in Cardano, it's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit more, so one of the focuses we have is this identity product, because identity is foundational for all finance. So it's not just about Africa. It's about coming up with our mission statement of becoming, the new financial platform, and that's outside of a specific region. So yeah, we think that Africa is a very smart bet for where we can get initial adoption. We think we have quite reasonable plans to onboard 100 million users onto this identity platform within the next year or two. So, that might seem ambitious, but actually the scale of the African continent means it's quite realistic. Ethiopia alone has 110 million people. So when you're looking at this scale, the figures that we're talking, I think are realistic rather than too ambitious.
Actually, it's a great point you make, in the fact that I think for a lot of people like Westerners in Europe and the US, Africa is still a bit mysterious. And
Sure.
when you say that actually there is 1.3 billion people there, and it's probably going to be 2 billion in 10 or 20 years. It's the place to be. And actually everything has to, not everything, but a lot of things has to be built. So it's definitely a right place to start.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I'm not going to try to dig too much in this because I know that we're going to have more information in a month. In terms of what are the most pressing issues in Africa, you mentioned identification, which is I think the cornerstone of everything. But did you identify other main issues that can be solved or tackled thanks to blockchain?
Yeah, so, at the risk of laboring this point a little bit more, I think that people often think about identity as a single product, whereas actually it spans across many different industries and many different solutions. So, to give you an example here, if you're going to be doing a supply chain track and trace solution, where you're going to try to prove the provenance of a good like coffee from the farmer, to where it's sold maybe as a £6 espresso in London, and you're trying to make sure that you can transfer more value back to that farmer when that final sale is done. Well, how's that going to happen? Well, one is that you could have a smart contract, which will enable automatic payment back to the farmer when the sale happens. But who's that farmer? Well, you need an identity for that farmer. You also want to have an identity for all the people along that supply chain, the exporters, the roasters. So when we talk about identity, for me, it's enabling us to get into many, many different industries. So this is supply chain track and trace. This can be health records. This can be, opening up loans and insurance. So this is the reason why I bang on about it, because once you get identity and you find product market fit on it, you're really opening yourself up to many multi-billion-dollar industries.
Yeah, actually, it's like when I started my journey in blockchain, and when I talk with my friends and partner here in Africa, for any kind of project, at some point you come back to identification.
Absolutely.
So like, it's actually true. If you can show that you have a solution that works, there is a lot of things that can plug to this identification solution, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So to give you an example of a tender that we applied for, and we came second, so we didn't win the bid, but this was to provide identity for smallholder farmers here in Ethiopia. So this was a pilot of 6 million farmers, and the idea was that we could go and create the identity for the farmer. When the farmer goes to the cooperative to purchase agricultural inputs like seed and fertilizer, they give the cash at that point, and they're given a voucher. This is how the system currently works. It's a paper voucher. They then take that paper voucher to a warehouse and they exchange that for those inputs. So as you can imagine, there's loads of potential for fraud, waste, and abuse within this completely manual system. So what we were looking to do was to implement our Atala Prism system and move on to this digital ecosystem. But the real magic of this is that these farmers in Ethiopia, they're currently doing $600 million worth of loans on these agricultural inputs. So there's this massive finance stack that sits on top of this incredibly manual process. So that's the leverage there. If you're building the system, which allows you to track the inventory, to issue the farmer these inputs, and all of that data's there, then actually you're the valuable point, you're the valuable data holder when it comes to making that loan decision. So this is it, right? If you want to do finance, you need to be doing identity first and foremost.
Yeah, actually, it's the point, and it's not only true in Africa, actually, because even in some other region in the world, and we always think of Southeast Asia, but also in some countries in Europe or in America, not everything is perfect. So like this identification solution can be like come at a great hand for all these things. So that's really interesting, and I wonder if like you can share with us a bit about the other countries, or if you have any contacts in other countries, and on what topic, or
Sure.
that could be interesting.
So there's a second project, which we're also working very closely with. We hope to have all of the contracts and stuff agreed once again before this Africa special, but this will be in Tanzania. So it's a really interesting project, which is looking to provide internet to either those that don't have them or those who aren't consuming a lot of data because it's too expensive. So by using unlicensed spectrum rather than participating in these incredibly expensive spectrum auctions, which can run for $2 or $3 billion for the 3G spectrum space, for the 4G spectrum space, these guys use unlicensed spectrum and Wi-Fi mesh networks to be able to provide internet at a fraction of the cost. So they're looking to roll out in Tanzania this year, and we're looking to support them with not only the digital identity for every telco subscriber, but also eventually to start using Cardano to be able to provide finance to these subscribers as well. So for us, it's an opportunity to once again use our digital identity product and to get more people using it. But secondly, to really make some serious movements into the financial inclusion space. So now that we have this 100, 200,000 telco subscribers in Tanzania, now let's plug in Plutus, let's plug in this $12 billion ADA Cardano market and allow people to start making loans directly to people and generate real economic value. So yeah, this is also where I'm going. For me, this next year should be around making real tangible progress into the financial inclusion space, which has always been an aspiration, but the technology hasn't been ready. We're starting to get there now. So yeah, I'm looking for real projects where we get real users.
Yeah, because I think actually like getting new partners, it's always difficult in our world, because the thing is that you need clients to develop projects, but they want to see projects to be able to take you. So
The
like
chicken and the egg problem.
exactly.
Yeah.
So right. So the thing
Absolutely.
is, yeah, I think that it's gonna actually like we're going to have like more use cases, and we're going to show in Africa that, okay, there is things that can be done. And at the same time, for Cardano, we can say, okay, we have real projects, because it's true, it's a questioning now in the community and even beyond. It's like Cardano looks good, but there is not much right now on it.
I think that's a really fair comment. So ultimately, we're only just releasing our native asset feature on our smart contract layer. So when people say to me, oh, Cardano is cool, but where's the development community? I'm like, well, there can't be a development community because no one's been able to develop on it yet. Like, that's all changing over the next month, right? Native asset comes out, smart contracts come out. So suddenly I'm expecting to see a massive development community emerge. And I know you want to ask me more about community, so we can talk about that later. But for the purposes of the point I'm making here, I think that we're going to start to see a lot of very interesting applications start to emerge on Cardano now that this technology is released. In some ways, I see my role as doing these big enterprise deals to be able to win credibility and validate the technology, and sort of maybe to groove a path which then other independent entrepreneurs and community members can then follow in. So that's sort of been my strategy.
Okay, awesome. Like, I think that a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that. And to come back on Africa, because like you are mainly working in Eastern Africa, is there any reason for that? Or just because you have like roots in Ethiopia, or yeah?
So good question. I knew when I was answering the previous question, I'd forgotten what you asked me at the beginning. But yeah, you want me to name all the countries. So Tanzania is going to be a focus for this year as well, over this telco opportunity. We've got an interesting opportunity in South Africa over insurance, which we're also looking to do. And all of these deals, as I say, they're multi-million users. So large scale enterprise deployments. Outside of that, we're looking to work in Kenya and Nigeria as focus countries as well. I mean, Nigeria, obviously, you've got a huge Bitcoin and digital asset community. It's an incredibly populous, an incredibly populous country. You've got more of a developed technology space there than you might do in Ethiopia. Kenya was obviously the home of mobile money, a very developed technology scene as well. I think the Minister of Technology there is an ex-Google employee. So yeah, we've got our focus countries lined up, but that should just be the beginning. After these 5 focus countries, we've got plans for another 15, which we'll be working on after we've delivered on these first 5.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, actually, like the countries you mentioned are like the one who are known in Africa to be like advanced in terms of technology. And I'm just wondering if you have any contact with Egypt, because I know they are also really active in all this technology world.
So yeah, so maybe I should segue onto the community plan then, because we've got a structure for this. So we're going to be working with ICE-ADES, which is a local tech incubator and accelerator, who's going to be organizing and liaising with the different technology accelerators and incubators in the 5 focus countries that we talked about. So we're going to be running events, training developers on Plutus and smart contracts, doing sorts of broader seminars about what the project roadmap is, what you can expect for Cardano over the next year or 2, but also using these incubators and accelerators as a liaison point between IO and the community. So I want there to be a Cardano ambassador in every single one of these countries. So I've been speaking to the CF about really pushing up their efforts at finding Cardano ambassadors in all of these countries, and to create this sort of dialogue between the product teams at Cardano and IO and the community who understand the needs of the technology better than anyone. So what I don't want is this sort of like Mount Olympus thing going on where IO decides on the product roadmap the community is saying, that's cool, but actually this is really what we need to make an impact in the country. So I'm just trying to shorten that chain and build in the linkages. And yeah, as I say, after the first 5 countries, which we're going to focus on over the next few months, I want to have a Cardano ambassador and representative in the other 15 we've got on our list over the next 15 months, 20 months. So yeah, that's where we're going.
That's actually really interesting, and it's a perfect transition for the next question. So it's cool. So because actually the thing is, when you want to reach mass adoption, so there is 2 different levels you want to work. It's like at the government level, because you want like the decision maker to be aware of what it is and to allow it, and at the same time, and it links directly to what you just said, you also need people on the ground who are going to actually implement applications and stuff that people need. Because as you say, sometimes there is like something, there is nothing in between. So if I well understand, so far you worked more at a government level, I mean at a higher level. Can you tell us why did you choose this approach first?
Yeah, so currently there's not a lot of public documentation about how Plutus is going to work, right? Or how you can use a Thaler identity. It's because these things haven't been released to the public yet. So without that public method of people learning how to use the platform, this sort of bottom-up approach was never a choice for me, right? So what I've been doing is looking under the hoods at IO, seeing what technology we're cooking up and going, okay, I can really see a use case for that for the government of Ethiopia in this ministry. And then going and interfacing between and making sure that the requirements which are coming from these big enterprise deals are actually being met in the product and the development teams. So this is something that, I can do as a member of IO and within my role. But it's not something that the public can do yet. So this is the reason why I've been doing enterprise deals of this scale. I'm only a single person, so I can't be handling 50, 100 deals concurrently. So I focused on maximizing the user numbers on these deals. As we shift now over the next 2 months, all of that will change, right? So all of the documentation becomes available. People can develop on the platform without talking to IO. So at this stage, then I need to start focusing on enabling that sort of grassroots approach. And this is the reason why the community plan is something that we're pushing now, right? We want to make sure that everyone that wants to develop on the platform has all the tools they need to be able to do this without talking to me, right? So that's where we're going. And it's the reason why I'm going to be shifting focus away from large scale enterprise deployments towards enabling the community over the next year.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense. And yeah, you need like first to tap into the government level, actually, because there is not much information to share with people on the
absolutely
on the lower level, and yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, just to maybe reiterate something I said earlier, I really see that the stuff that I'm doing will win credibility for the technology in a lot of markets, which will make everyone else's lives easier. When someone's trying to maybe build a business using Cardano and pitch to, let's say, a Nigerian ministry, they'll be able to say, it's actually the same tech that IO used in Ethiopia for this ministry. So you get that credibility from the work that we're doing on the enterprise scale. And that credibility trickles down to even stuff done, from the sort of ground up, bottom up approach.
Yeah, and actually, like, as you say, also like you have a strike force, which is better than like, for instance, a little developer would like to do something in Nigeria right now. So like you have these examples and like it works, and we onboarded like millions of people, and from that people are going to be able to develop their thing. Yeah, actually, it's like, I think it's also actually you answered to the second part of the question, which was like how to implement it on the ground. But like to go a bit more in detail into that. So implementing on the ground. So you said earlier you're gonna like push for incubators, or you're gonna like what's your plan to help those people to develop?
So it all starts with education. So what I want to do is to, first of all, work with the incubators and the accelerators to do in-person trainings. to make sure that there is a physical space where you can go to learn more how to develop on the platform. The second part is to put all of this stuff up online. So, you want people to be able to learn how to do Plutus smart contracts also on web courses from their home, if they're in a city or a part of the country that doesn't have access to these incubators and these accelerators. Pardon me. So yeah, for me, it's also about working with the education department in IO to make sure that all of this wonderful tech that we're building is easy for people to learn and easy for people to understand. So yeah, that's part of the work as well, is the education side.
Yeah, I think that's actually like super, super important, because it's one of the things I noticed in Africa is you have people who have skills, but sometimes they just don't have access to a place to just express it. And for instance, it's the thing we have in Nigeria, where actually we have a lot of developers, but the internet is, let's say, crappy.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for them. So it's like, I think it's good to have, like, as you said, these two things, like online resources for people who can have access, but also to be able to host people, to provide them with the knowledge, but also the ability to access to it. So like internet and good electricity things. And so, yeah, I think sounds like a good idea to allow as much as possible people like to work on that.
I think just to add one thing on that, there's also a capital element as well, right? People need finance to be able to start businesses. And by localizing, or at least by working within the existing network of technology accelerators and incubators, it makes it a lot easier to come up with a model by which people can get finance. So these accelerators and accelerators and incubators often have very good links already with pre-existing funding institutions and have access to capital, which is meant to be funneled towards startups. So by working within that ecosystem in a local fashion, we also leverage this very large pool of capital that already exists. So what we like to do is, partner with people who are interested in providing capital and trainings towards startups and innovators within each of these countries, and participate in this ecosystem rather than trying to rebuild our own. So but that's also something we're keen on, as being part of the existing technology communities in each of these countries.
Yeah, and actually what's also interesting in what you said is you also come with people who might be interested in investing. So it might also attract more people to come and work, developing and deploying their solutions on the Cardano ecosystem, because they know that they might have access to funds. So I think it would also drive people to enter the ecosystem.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, Cardano as a platform, we're definitely moving in this direction. I mean, you've seen some of the stuff with Catalyst. We're trying to build the tools which will enable people to be able to go and speak to the community and say, here's my proposition, right? Do you like it? If you like it, you can fund it. And some of the stuff which, has made me really proud is seeing some of these amazing stake pools being created, which are focused on charitable endeavors. And I've loved it, right? Go delegate your ADA to this stake pool because you believe in their mission. So this is for me a really innovative tool and an innovative way for charities or charitably focused people to be able to gain access to funds. So we're obviously going to be trying to extend that to not just sort of these charitable causes, but find out ways in which people can put their projects up and say, look, this is the funding I need, these are the expected returns, and create a new marketplace for capital allocation.
That's I think it's actually like a lot of people. It's what a lot of people like about Cardano is this thing, and it leads to my next question, which is about how can the community contribute? Because we've seen that actually, for instance, through Catalyst, it was really interesting because people can apply, show their projects, and get feedbacks on like, oh, you should work on this and that. So I think that this community is not only financially speaking, but like, how do you see their help for the development in Africa?
So the first thing I'd say is that what I really want is a point person in each country who can be responsible for the community in that. So this is what the ambassador program was always meant to be about. So if you're in a country which doesn't have an ambassador, I encourage you to apply for it. When we do this big Africa special, we'll put links down for how you can apply. Once we have this person, then I want them to be autonomous, essentially, to be able to find out what the needs of that community is and to be able to grow it in a way that makes sense for that specific country. So yeah, I want to give people enough space to be able to be creative, to provide and create the right events for whatever that particular city needs. So yeah, I'd say if you don't have an ambassador in your country yet, please apply. If you do, then we're going to make all of their information publicly accessible, so you can get in contact with them, and yeah, work collaboratively to figure out which way you can best fit in.
So yeah, I think that it needs to be said, like, if you don't have an ambassador in your country, please apply.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna receive few applications. But no, I think it's really interesting, because I think there is a lot of small blockchains community in almost every countries. But like, it's also our work, the people who already are in the Cardano community, to also try to speak to those people who don't necessarily know about Cardano and stuff. So that's also our work as community member, to spread the word. Because like, I think that currently we are all, most of the time, focused on the country where you're working or where you have projects. But like, the idea now, it's trying, okay, now we know that it's going to start really soon. Like, we need people and to help.
Yeah, and sorry, just to reiterate this, we're at a complete step change now for Cardano. We've been waiting for this technology for a very long time. I've been here in Ethiopia for 3 years now, and this is the moment where things will start to change and start to grow very, very rapidly. So if you've been following the Cardano project for a while, always thought it's interesting, but no developer tools or anything available yet, this all changes over the next few months. So if you are interested in being a bit more involved in helping to either set up a community or at least participate in it, I would encourage you to take this moment as the go point.
That's awesome. And also, regarding the overall community, do you have like any things that could be done by the community to help adoption or to help whatever? Because like, I think there is a lot of people who actually have pools who want to help somehow. But like, if you have any ideas and stuff, I think people would be interested in it.
So what my plan is to do is, after I sort of found this group of ambassadors, I'd like to host a monthly call with all of the ambassadors where needs are sort of fed back up to me. I think that my job is going to be to create the seed to make this successful. So I'm fully aware that we haven't given to the community enough materials, we haven't explained things, we haven't published all this documentation. So once we've done all of that work over the next couple of months, I think the community will have enough material to go and, first of all, run with it, cut it up, maybe translate it, whatever they need to do. But then also say, hey, John, this is really cool, but you haven't thought about this, or you've missed this, and this is what the community really wants. So yeah, I've got guesses about what people will come back with, but it's more important for me to just create the space for that dialogue and that interaction to happen, and then listen to what the needs are of the community and be responsive to that.
Yeah, so actually, like, what you're saying is like, you're gonna create the condition, like good conditions for people to work together or to bring things to the ecosystem. But at the end of the day, they're gonna have to do their part as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you started to talk a little bit about it, but I was wondering, there is, like, as you say, a lot of people who have ideas. They are not necessarily developers. So apart from Catalyst, which like most of the people in our space know a bit, do you know any other initiatives or kind of initiative that young African entrepreneurs might be interested in or should have a look to?
So this sort of, the simple answer before I get on to the long answer is that we don't have those mechanisms available just yet. There's no way for young entrepreneurs to be able to get capital for their ideas outside of the mechanisms which we've just discussed. That being said, I'm very aware that you have all these big players like GIZ, USAID, what's the DFID for the UK. So there's so much money which is going in to trying to encourage innovators in Africa. But none of that money is really working to support blockchain projects yet, or young entrepreneurs that are trying to develop businesses on blockchain. So this is something that I want to work on, and I have already started conversations with a number of these funders to say, look, this technology is innovative. We believe that it's going to be the framework for a new open financial system, and all of these entrepreneurs in these countries believe it too. So let's create bespoke funding models to enable people to get these businesses off the ground. So yeah, this is something which I'm trying to explore. Much like government processes, often working with these large donors is also a very, very long process. So yeah, nothing happens overnight, but I'm well aware of the need to have funds available like this. So yeah, we'll explore it from two ways. One is trying to create more mechanisms on the platform for these young entrepreneurs to be able to raise capital. And the second is to tie that in with the bigger funding institutions and make sure that they're paying their way as well.
Yeah, because I actually like I think it's a good point you made in the fact that actually for me those big institutions are like governments, by themselves.
Yeah,
So like you need to
absolutely.
somehow go there, because I used to work with the French Development Agency, and they are working on a lot of different projects, but they're not aware of everything. And now, to be
Sure.
honest, blockchain is still like something really little. When you are
Absolutely.
inside it, you think it's big. It is, but like there is a lot of people who are not aware of it. And for instance, I know some people who try to reach them with blockchain project, and they're like, okay, but what it is. So I think that once again, when those projects going to be shown to the world, like
Absolutely.
it's going to be it's going to give credibility actually to those applications, which is a bit lacking now.
And I think you've nailed it there. So I still think that in many ways, blockchain has credibility issues. The huge volatility in prices actually erodes a lot of confidence by these sort of like bigger institutions about the value of the technology. And first of all, they're conflating crypto with blockchain. Like there's many misunderstandings to unpack there, but you can either unpack it by spending a lot of time educating them individually, or you can unpack it by just doing a massive deployment and being like, look, rather than me talking to you about it, this is what we did here and these were the results. And that's a lot faster, I think.
Yeah, actually, I think it's the way to proceed, because in all kind of area, when you start something like projects, they are like a bit suspicious, and as soon as you show that it works, so yeah, I think that it's gonna really be helpful that when your big project's gonna be released. So thank you, because actually I think it's also interesting for the people to, because as you say, there is like, we need the tools to technically develop stuff, but we also need those capital to start projects, because it's also something I would like to, or we try to explain to people. It's like, now blockchain sounds super technical because it's coding and stuff, but in a close future, like actually everybody can develop their ideas on it. Like now there is a lot of people who develop ideas that need internet and they don't even know it works. So in the future, you're not going to be the need to be like a specialist in blockchain to develop stuff on it. And I think that we need also to bring these people with ideas in order to say, okay, you have this idea and blockchain might help you to develop this to another level.
And this is also something which I'm keen on doing here. So I want to expand the team here, so I've got more capacity to service deals. But one of the other things I'd like to do is, for the right projects, actually to be able to develop these solutions in a very cost-efficient fashion. So from this IO team here, I'm not looking to sort of, make millions of dollars on each of these contracts and make sure that, my personal P&L is looking super good. We're really trying to make sure that we're winning the use case argument, right? So, this is also going to be something which, if people are interested, they can approach me about. If they've got a project that they need the development capacity for, but they think it's very relevant for blockchain, as long as I've got capacity in the team here, then, we're interested in building out those solutions.
Okay, that's also like a good point for the people, that they can actually, if they have ideas and stuff, they should reach you, or like or your office, because like, yeah, I think it's also, because I think also in our world now, it's sometimes you're a bit too scared to go and ask, because so I think it's good to know that, okay, if you have ideas,
Absolutely.
it's not because you have ideas that necessarily we're going to be able to help you, but at least you
Sure,
can
sure,
just
sure.
present the thing. So
And you know, that's really why it's so important to have local community managers and local ambassadors, right? Because they can collate all of these thoughts and these ideas and, you know, suggestions or requests. And then through regular touch points with me and the broader IO team, right, these things can surface. You know, I try to respond to all the messages that I get, but you know, sometimes you can't keep on track of everything, right? So yeah, by creating this structure, I think we'll be able to do a much better job for the community, and also a much better job for us. We need to hear these ideas, right? We're up here building the platform, and we're making decisions about the roadmap. If we're not listening to the community about what it needs, then we're missing a huge trick.
no, that's a really interesting point, and I think a lot of people is going to be really interested in this idea of like ambassador, because like now it's more, you know, their role is a bit vague for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
like actually now, okay, so they're going to be the first level. If you want to develop something, reach the ambassador in your country, and this ambassador is going to be in close touch with IOG.
Absolutely, and I think that's like a fair criticism of the scheme currently. It's a bit nebulous. You know, what's expected of you, what do you get for it? So I think, you know, we have to work with the CF to really make this a lot clearer, to also make commitments about what we're going to give to the ambassadors, right? So a monthly checkpoint. If you create a deck, you'll have time to present it to an IO team. So stuff like that. It's all sorts of back of an envelope stuff at the moment, but it can't stay that way for very much longer.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of people who have this thought, but like actually we also as a community have to understand that it's an ongoing process. So not everything is perfect, but we have actually like to bring constructive feedbacks in order to be able to make it better in the near future.
Sorry, just to add one thing in there. So we're actually busy building an Cardano Africa specific website and portal. So that portal will have all the relevant information about being an ambassador, what it means. It will also be a place for community projects as they start to happen to be able to be displayed prominently. So yeah, I wanted this for a while. As we start to get up to speed here now, this is the time for it. So yeah, there will also be a dedicated space for African content in a month or so.
That's actually awesome. I think that it's going to bring a lot of light, because actually now there is a lot of information, but I think when you're new to it, it's a bit difficult. So yeah, if they kind of like there is a portal for Africa that could be really really interesting. I think there is a lot of people who's going to be happy with that as well. So I think we covered already a lot of things. Perhaps it would be time for us to go in a kind of a conclusion, or like a few last words, because I think there is already a lot of information to process for people.
Sure.
So
So if I was to summarize, maybe, you know, my thoughts on this is that, you know, we're busy working very, very hard on closing out these very large scale enterprise deals. We think it's going to bring a lot of credibility to the platform. And this is all timed up very nicely with the release of native assets, smart contracts, which are all coming in right now. So if you've been thinking about getting involved in Cardano, but weren't quite convinced, you know, this is really the moment. You know, as a platform, we're very focused on emerging markets and particularly Africa. So if you want to organize events, if you want to create content, if you want to be teaching developer classes, these are all going to be activities that we're going to be needing over the next year. So crucial message: if you're not an ambassador, if your country doesn't have one, please do think about it. Please apply, and that will be the way in which we can you know, communicate and build this into something bigger.
yeah, I think it's interesting. Like actually, people have to think of the first mover advantage. You know, like now there is like seats, so it's time to join. But I think it's really interesting to see that actually it's going forward, because I think for some people, to be honest, it's been a bit frustrating a bit for the past months, because you know there is something happening, but you're still waiting.
Yeah,
but
what is it?
so I think that actually it's frustrating for you as well, but no, I think that it's,
I imagine it's more frustrating for me.
probably no, and actually we know that like working with government and stuff, it's always complicated because there is a lot of procedures and you have to wait for approval of every level and stuff. So it takes forever. But actually, yes, I think that once, it's always the same. Like the most difficult thing is having the first projects down running, and then normally, if it's good, it's going to continue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And a more like open questions, like it's going to be a bit like cliche, but like, how do you see, what would be for you the future of Africa? Do you think that all this technology going to really help the country to raise and to be able to be more independent in the future? Because I think it's all about this, letting the people being more responsible for their own things.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this comes down to this sort of fourth industrial revolution idea. The idea that Africa is going to have a different development path from other regions which have developed, and I really believe this. A lot of people think that Africa's development path may be similar to China's, where it's going to be manufacturing and things like this. And I'm not 100% convinced on this. I'm also slightly concerned. I think that with automation, we may actually miss that opportunity for that type of growth here. If the cost of automation brings down manufacturing and the need to actually use human labor to produce goods enough, then actually that cheap, low-cost labor play, which China did so well, may not be open to Africa. So if you're going to say that we're not going to have the same development model as China, then you need to start thinking about what our development model will be. And for me, the start of that development model is going to have to be to rebuild this financial ecosystem in a fairer way and allowing Africans to have the identity and the loans and the insurance provision, which are currently being withheld from them. Because capital and finance is the beginning of all development. If you can't leverage, if you can't borrow money, then you can't increase the size of your farm. You can't buy that tractor to be able to increase your yields, right? So it's absolutely foundational. And I think that by building these decentralized tools and coming up with these new innovative ways of offering finance and identity, at least we're starting to engage with the problem of how we're going to do development here. So I don't have all the answers, but I do know that tangibly, digital identity and financial inclusion are definitely sensible places to start.
Yeah, I think that as we said before, this identity thing is a key. Like when we did some research about it, because for us, or like in Western countries, sometimes it's difficult to understand that, because for us it works, or most of the time it works. But for instance, it's true that for many people in some countries in Africa, they don't have an identity. They just, for the system, they just don't exist. So like, as you say, you cannot have an account, you cannot have, so you cannot buy things, you cannot have a property, so your land is not yours and stuff. So as soon as you are able to fix this, I really think that it can fix a lot of other problems pretty quickly.
And just to add on something, some context there for people who may not live here or may not understand the environment. For instance, in Ethiopia, a lot of people have what we call these local Kabele IDs, and often these are pieces of cardboard. So even if you've got an identity, and this is a government ID, is that identity useful? If I take this piece of cardboard and I give it to someone, are they going to learn anything useful about me? Will I be able to then prove to them that I have an ability to repay a loan? And the answer is no, right? So by digitizing, forgetting about the fact that we're blockchain and how we're doing it, you at least have the opportunity to make that identity useful, for you to be able to share it with someone who isn't in the room next to you by me showing them the ID, for me to be able to associate this ID with the fact that I've repaid previous loans and that I probably am, a low risk customer. So there's so much stuff which you can do from this foundation. And yeah, I think IO and blockchain platforms in general have started to recognize this and are investing heavily, like we are, in trying to make really useful products for people.
That's yeah, I think that's the point actually. And I think that all this, because of course we are mainly talking about Cardano, but it's true that blockchain technology in general and everything that are related to it, or most of the things that might be really, really helpful. And I think that as soon as people gonna really understand the potential, suddenly it's gonna be like massive. Because I think it's gonna take time, still a little bit of time, for people like I mean, regular people. I don't mean it in a bad way, but like people who are not necessarily aware of all this, when they're gonna understand that it's gonna be their benefits to claim back their identity, to be able to do stuff, I think suddenly it's gonna be like it's gonna switch. I really think so. So thank you very much, John. I think that we got a lot of interesting information. I think there is a lot of people were waiting for some answers about Africa. We're going to be like really happy. Probably in the coming days or weeks, they're going to say, okay, but when? You know, like it's the question.
I'll let you know when I know.
It's the thing, you know. It's going to be like, but no,
Yeah.
it was really interesting. I think we've been through the different points we wanted to discuss with you. I don't know if you have anything else you would like to share with us, or some thoughts, or
No. I think that we've covered a lot. As I say, keep an eye out for hopefully the announcement of this sort of Africa special focused event. That means that all the contracts are done and that we're ready to go. But yeah, you know, after that, we can sort of see how the community feels, and we can do a follow-up interview maybe after that when all the information is public, if you've got further questions.
Thank you very much. It was a real pleasure. So hope to talk to you soon with, or to hear from you soon with good news. Wish you a good day, and see you soon. Bye.